What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network, as well as on the USA Network, because today we're talking the series premiere of Straight Up Steve Austin that premiered after Raw this past Monday night. The show only runs about a half an hour, so without commercials, roughly 22 minutes, the exact same thing as Miz and Mrs. But this is obviously a different type of reality TV. I never watched any of Stone Cold's other shows, Broken Skull Challenge, and I think he had another one. I've never seen those, only clips from them. This is the first show of his that I've watched, but, you know, it was on the USA Network. It's not on the Hunting Network or whatever the other channel, the CNT or CMT, I think the name of the channel is, where his other shows aired. This one's on USA. It's right after Raw. It's very accessible for wrestling fans. If you've watched any episode of Raw in the last 2 or 3 weeks, you probably would have seen a commercial for Straight Up Steve Austin. Basically, the premise of the show, it's essentially a real life version of his podcast. I'm a big Stone Cold fan. I love his podcast. I've been listening to it religiously every episode for 6 years now. Just about 6 years. Maybe not since the very beginning, but since late December 2013. I've been listening for a long time now. And the show's always great. His show usually runs for about an hour in podcast form. This one, he sits down with celebrities, not just wrestlers, but this episode featured Rob Riggle, who, I'm obviously familiar with him. I knew him from Step Brothers. I've seen him in Hangover. I'm sure he's in other stuff. I don't watch too much television. I watch some movies, but I obviously know who he is. If you see the guy, you obviously know who this guy is. He's a great actor. I had no idea that he had a background in the Marines, which is exactly what they talk about here in this show, which is why I found the show to be very interesting, because they talk about a lot of things that I didn't know about either individual coming into this show. But anyway, to kick off the episode, we see Riggle driving up to meet Steve Austin at his, I don't think it's his ranch, but it's somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And Austin actually asks Riggle to do the pow, pow, pow from Step Brothers. That's how I know the guy. So the fact that he did this here on this episode, I thought was awesome. So he did the pow, pow, pow from that awesome scene in Step Brothers. Anyway, Riggle remembers watching wrestling at his local arena wherever he lived. He recalls swearing at the wrestlers in their locker room, so he has a lot of fond memories of being a wrestling fan growing up. He actually also remembers having his first concert there, too. I forgot what the concert was, but he and Steve bond over that. He also talks about, because Steve talks about all the, roles that he's gotten in movies over the years. And Riggle says that he's found it very easy to be cast as a jerk in movies because he's learned from experience just interacting with people that are jerks like that, and he's learned from them, and that's how he kind of adopted the role of a jerk in these various TV shows and movies, which, again, is something I never knew, which I thought was very interesting. They also talk about, cars and stuff like that. They run over a bunch of cars in a tank. Again, a lot of random shit goes down on this show, but it's very fun to watch. Riggle also then tells a story about how he has a nickname of being called Hot Glove. I don't know, it's something car related, but I guess he had a Hot Glove nickname back in the day. He recalls the origins of that nickname. He also talks about getting into the Marines, and he remembers being very motivated, how being in the Marines motivated him to be just a better individual, and how he came out of it a lot better than he did going in. So they meet up with Sammy Mansoor, not Mansoor from NXT, but another Mansoor, to make fried chicken, which was really cool. And also, while all of this is going on, Riggle also talks about volunteering to go back into active duty in 2001, I believe obviously after 9/11. Very interesting stuff. And they bring some of the car doors from the cars that they ran over back with them while they go get ready to make this fried chicken. So while they're making the fried chicken, I guess Riggle's never done this before. Steve has, or if he has, he doesn't do it too often because this guy Sammy was, taking him step by step through how to make fried chicken. And it's pretty hands-on, literally hands-on. So they break the bones of the chicken within the... It's not a fucking chicken, you know what I mean? It's obviously already dead, and, it's like the chicken that you would eat, but I guess the bones are still inside, so they have to break the bones. It sounds cartoonish when you hear the bones break, but I guess that's what you have to do when you make the fried chicken. And then they marinate it themselves, which I thought was very interesting. So once it's done, they have to season it, and then they eat it while drinking Austin's IPA, which... You gotta throw a cheap plug in for the IPA. It's his own show. Riggle likes it. He jokes, and he spits it out at first, jokingly, not liking it, but then he admits to liking it. So yeah, they talk about getting, him getting certain parts in movies and stuff like that. Riggle also talks about doing stand-up for the first time and how he was really afraid to do it. He also talks about how getting hired for SNL back in the day was the most nervous he has ever been. Getting the call from Lorne Michaels to do the show, that whole process. Really, again, really fascinating stuff here from Riggle talking about, not only his personal life with the Marine stuff, but how he got into certain movies and things like that. Really cool. And then they talk about working with NFL legends. I guess he does a lot of stuff either with ESPN or the NFL. I guess Riggle does. Again, I had no idea about any of this. I don't follow his career too closely, but he gets, he talks about getting the opportunity to work with a lot of awesome people he grew watching up on the football field. And then they shoot a minigun to close out the episode at some random targets. And the show cut out for me when Steve went up. I saw Riggle do it. He didn't do half bad. I'm not sure if Steve did any better. He probably did, but I didn't see it because the feed cut out for me at this point. But it was at the very end of the episode, so I can only imagine that he did well. And that was the first episode of Rob Riggle, or rather of Straight Up Steve Austin with Rob Riggle. I have Rob Riggle as my subheading here for the name of this episode. Maybe there was a different name for it, but I just put down Rob Riggle as the first guest. But this was good. I enjoyed it. Next week is Sal Vulcano. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, from Impractical Jokers. I'm much more familiar with him. I know he's a big wrestling fan, so I'm really looking forward to that episode. And I think Becky Lynch is going to be on an upcoming episode as well, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, good first episode of Straight Up Steve Austin. If you're a Steve Austin fan, you should enjoy the show. If you're a fan of his podcast, you will absolutely enjoy this show. Or even if you're a fan of Rob Riggle, you should like this episode as well. You probably already knew a lot of the stuff he talked about here if you followed his career a lot closer than I have, but I don't really know much about the guy aside from his roles in Step Brothers and Hangover. So to see him on this show talking about his background in acting and in the Marines and whatnot was very interesting. And just to see Steve shooting the shit about, cars, the Marines, fucking making fried chicken, it made me hungrier coming out of the episode than it was going in, just seeing them make the fried chicken, because it looked really fucking good. So just a bit of a warning here that if you go into this episode having not eaten anything, definitely do so, because you will come out of this episode hungrier than you came in because of the fried chicken that Steve and Rob made. Anyway, be sure to check out this episode on the USA Network. New episodes air after Monday Night Raw on the USA Network. As for me, folks, thank you for checking out my video. You can check me out on the socials, and also be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'll probably be reviewing all future episodes of Straight Up Steve Austin, just because I'm watching Raw live, and I'm going to be watching the show anyway, so why the fuck not? Even though it airs at 11 o'clock at night, it's super late. Honestly, I would like it better as a lead-in to Raw, but as a post-Raw thing, it's fine too. So tomorrow here on Network and Chill, I should be reviewing the latest Table for 3 that aired on the WWE Network after Raw simultaneously with Straight Up Steve Austin. That episode featured Braun Strowman, Alexa Bliss, and Ember Moon. So check that out tomorrow, my review of it here on the channel. And then Sunday, my review of the next episode, the latest episode of Ms. and Mrs., which aired on the USA Network after SmackDown on Tuesday. All that being said, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.